Are there any questions, brothers? From questions from the brothers and from the sisters on the topic or off the topic? I'm your guest. Inshallah, we'll try our best to entertain them. Fadl akhi.
Yeah, regarding the last 10 days of Ramadan itself, how did it go about the importance of doing the in the Masajid and having the Sabbath go about it? Because some didn't have a chance to do it, you see.
With regards to the itikaf, what was the position of the Salaf Salih regarding that itikaf? How did they go about it? So on and so forth. As I just said and explained in the lecture, the Salaf Salih did nothing extra in the last 10 days besides what the Prophet did. And the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have, he says, what? Shadda mi'zarahu. When the last 10 days, إِذَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ الْعَشْرِ, when the last 10 days came, he did what? He fastened his izar. Shadda mi'zarahu. He tied it tight around his waist. With one or two interpretations, if not two interpretations, both of them being valid. The first interpretation, يعني اجتهد في العبادة ما لم يكن يجتهد في غيرها. As when the last 10 days came, or the last 10 nights, he worked extra hard to worship Allah. And the second interpretation, يعني ترك النساء, is that he would avoid his women folk. He would avoid his wives for the remainder of what? The month of Ramadan. And that's because obviously going to your wife, it's permissible to go with her. It comes with ramifications and consequences. And it's halal. It's not haram. But it comes with a sacrifice, and it takes you away from certain things. And this is something which is understood even today by non-Muslims, professional athletes. When you speak with them, whatever sport it is, when the season is in, when they're practicing, when they have a playoff game, they're prohibited from any type of sexual relation. Any type of sexual relation. They cannot go to any woman. And there's a reason behind that with regards to their minds, with regards to their bodies. I had a friend once who was a prize fighter. He wasn't like a professional type of, Mike Tyson type level prize fighter, but he was a prize fighter on a level. And he told me, and he said that when you go into your training camp, you're not allowed to be with women. But most people, they think it's just because of what? The strength in your legs, and you have to avoid this food, and you have to have the weight and so on. He says, that's only part of it. He says, our trainers would tell us is that you're not allowed to be with a woman for a certain amount of time for you to go into the ring with a certain amount of rage. And you would take your frustration out on your what? Your opponent in the ring. Are you understanding this concept here? So when a man goes to his wife, it comes with a what? An effect and a price on him. So the Prophet ﷺ, when the last 10 days came, the last 10 nights, shadda mi'zarahu. He would tie his izar. Everyone understand this? So the Salaf Salih, they did what? They tied their izars. They made itikaf, they read the Quran, they made dua, they made tawbah, they made istighfar, and the list goes on of the things that the Prophet had legislated. The Prophet had what? Legislated. Wallahu alam. Fadl ya akhi.
Just a quick question. For someone that's not practicing the whole year, the youth, what advice would you give them to inspiring just before Ramadan?
With regards to someone who doesn't practice, Ramadan comes, what advice would you give them? I would say, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, take small steps which lead to leaps. This Ramadan, you may not be the most knowledgeable, the most righteous, the most pious, but take a step. You're missing prayers, inshallah, no prayers you're missing after this Ramadan. Doesn't mean you pray at night. Doesn't mean you stand in Taraweeh and you make dua until your arms become tired, but at least you're making all 5 prayers on time. Mathalan. Or you have, mathalan, you make zina, waliyadhu billah. You have a problem with zina, you sleep with different women, so on and so forth. Make it your resolve during Ramadan to avoid and cut all of that out. And then, inshallah, as time goes on, this main girlfriend, either we get married or we step away from each other. I can't be with you in this manner, whatever the case may be. Take small steps. And as the wise man, he once said, he said what? He said every saint has a history or a past. And every sinner has a future. So you see someone who's righteous and pious, there was a time in Allah knows best in which they may not have been that righteous. Or if they were always righteous, they weren't that knowledgeable. He had to learn. He had to start from somewhere. And a sinner, inshallah, has a future. So don't look at it as this huge, gigantic mountain. Just look at it as small rocks and pebbles collectively and build up to it. But you have to start eventually. You have to start sometime. Let alone the fact that you don't have an option. It's not a choice. And even if you're going to say, I don't want to fall back into sin, I don't want to be a hypocrite, you have to be a hypocrite right now. You have to. There's no choice. You have to fast. You have to pray. Even if you're going to relapse and fall back into it, you have to. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you have the sincere intention, and if you give a little bit of effort, and you allow the Ramadan fever to swarm upon you, Allah will make things easier. And before you know it, you find it easy to stop smoking. Bi'idhnillah, you find it easier to leave this off and to go to the masjid. You'll find it. And most importantly, you'll get the taste of it, and which is sweet. And it feels good being in the masjid with the brothers. I didn't have to look over my shoulder. I didn't have to worry about this. I felt at ease being in the masjid, sitting on the carpet, eating dates with the brothers. It felt good. And inshallah ta'ala, you have to get yourself addicted to that what? Good taste. That halawatul iman. And you can't do that if you're unwilling to try it out. So that's my advice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Are there any other questions from the brothers or the sisters? If the sisters have the questions, they can send them to you, Noor. Inshallah. Bi-idhnillah. Faddal. Barakallahu fikum.
Actually, my question is regarding the hour of fasting. Fasting Ramadan starts from Fajr until Maghrib. Maghrib in some countries is going to be a bit late. Like North Europe, Sweden, they fast 23 hours, 2.5 hours. I've got some friends there. They said they asked them about this, and they gave them fatwa that they can fast in the nearest Islamic country to them, which is Turkey. But in this case, they're going to break their fast a bit earlier than Maghrib.
Right. With regards to the phenomenon of very, very, very long days, whether it's here in this country or Scandinavia or other parts in which it's abnormal, with regards to the amount of daylight and the amount of darkness, with regards to fasting for 20 hours, 22 hours, is it permissible for them to break their fast before it's actually Maghrib, before the sun actually sets, based off of the closest Islamic country or Muslim country, whether it be Turkey or other than Turkey, and the fatwa of some ulama, so on and so forth? What do you think and what do you feel, etc.? To be honest with you, I would say there are two ways of looking at this issue. The first way of looking at the issue is that it's impermissible to do this. And you cannot live in Sweden, you cannot live in Denmark or the UK and say, I'm going to break my fast when they break it in Turkey, because you're not in Turkey. And the amount of hours of the sun, the daylight, no matter how long it is, that is the time that you have been placed in. And it is upon you to be patient upon that. An example of this would be the people who live in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia, and which is extremely hot, extremely arid. And sometimes in which it's so hot and so dry, and the wind is baking your face in Medina. I remember those days, you walk outside, it feels like when you check the oven, you're baking some muffins or cookies, huh? You open the oven, you feel that? That's how it feels in Medina some days. And no one there says that you can break your fast, you only have to fast a certain amount of hours because it's so hot. Because that's the climate of that country. That is the climate of that country. And you have to be patient upon it. And the climate is no different than the actual time. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that this is abnormal. This is not mu'tad for most places in the world, which are hot, which are cold. And the concept of fasting for 20 hours. When will you have suhoor and iftar? When will you sleep? When will you pray? Taraweeh. And many different problematic issues. So therefore, some ulama, they may possibly say that even though the sun has not yet set, they have a rukhsah to break their fast based off of a certain or specific amount of hours to the aqrab al-bilad al-islamiyya or al-muslima, abir bima shit. Whatever you want to say, Islamic country, Muslim country, etc. The current state of the world today. Is an Islamic country, al-muhim, in which the majority of the people are Muslims, and there's still a lot of Islam there. So, from one aspect, looking at the reality of the situation, the haraj, the difficulty, and most importantly, that that's shay kannahu nadir. كأنه نادر والأصل هو الشيء المعتاد لا النادر. Something which is rare and unique and abnormal is not necessarily the default ruling. So Allahu Alam, if they've received this fatwa from some scholars and they believe that to be the truth, it's one thing. And if a person is patient and if a person bears sabr upon it, then of course that's ahwat, and that's aslam wa abra li dhimma. Because the concept of you breaking your fast and it's daytime. It's daytime. Last but not least, once there was a Muslim that I met from Alaska, and they told us about these types of phenomena in which it is dark for such a long period of time. And the ulama of Islam, they say about the 5 daily prayers is that there is no Maghrib hasn't come in or Asr hasn't come in, but you make a taqdir. You make an estimation of the closest country. And they base this off of the hadith of the Dajjal, in which he will be with them for how many days? How many days will the Dajjal remain on the earth? What would his days be like? 1 day like a what? 1 day like a? 1 day like a? And the rest of the days like? And what did the companions ask the Prophet ﷺ? How will we make the salah therein? It says to qaddirun, make estimation. So bidnai ta'ala, Allah knows best. It could go both ways, wallahi. It could go this way, and it could say no, that people have to fast, they have to be patient upon that. Like the example I gave of what? Saudi Arabia, which is so hot. But that's Saudi Arabia, and that's the climate, and that is the nature of the weather. And you can't say, no, we can shorten our fast, we can drink water. No, because that is what is normal there. So Allahu Alam, it could go what? It could go in either of the 2 directions. Looking at the maqasid of the sharia, alright? And the concept of a sawm, and what is sawm? Ta'abbadan Allah bis sawm. Allah has placed this ibadah upon us, which there is some type of hardship. And the Prophet ﷺ, he himself has acknowledged it. The hadith Qudsi is mentioned, that is acknowledged. That the wala famu as-saim, the wala khalufu fam as-saimi atyabu 'inda Allah min rih al-misk. The bad smell of the one who's fasting is more pleasing to Allah than that of musk. So the sunnah is clearly affirming is that there's what? Hardship, there's difficulty, and there's something which is abnormal. Your breath is not supposed to what? Smell like that. But because your stomach is void, the gases, the air, etc. So that's my opinion, Allahu Alam, is that it could possibly what? Go in either of the 2 directions.
On the other side as well, the longest days they're going to be in Norway, 2.5 hours. The shortest days they're going to be in Argentina, it's 8 hours. Listen. So if somebody from Norway decided to go to Argentina to fast, is that acceptable?
Clear.
It's from Norway.
Perfect. A person says, I'm going to make hijrah just for Ramadan. There's nothing wrong with that. It's permissible to travel in the month of Ramadan. There's nothing wrong with that. However, 2 last things. First and foremost is the concept of a person leaving a country and going to another country to fast. But what are they doing in their original country? What's your madhab in Norway? Do you believe it's permissible to break the fast even though it's still light? Or are you doing all 20 hours? If you're doing all 20 hours or 22 hours, then that's no mushkila. You go to Argentina for the 8 hours, whatever. But if you yourself are breaking the fast with the normal time of Turkey, then there's no point in you going to Argentina. Last but not least is the concept of al-hisab al-falaki, is the calculation. And that's a very, very long discussion with regards to the calendar and the calculation. And calculating the sun, the moon, the hours and the days, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, يعني غاية ما في الأمر غاية ما في المسألة الاجتهاد بحسب الاجتهاد. And the people of ijtihad, they could differ. From one aspect, it makes sense. To fast for 20 hours, 22 hours is not normal. That's not normal. And when another person may say, they may use the rationale of the heat in some countries, in which that is the temperature. It's 120 degrees. And it's how long are you going to fast in Arizona? I mean, how many hours? Is the sun up? Roughly.
14, 15.
They say that is your struggle. Wallahu a'lam. So the Muslim should do that which is ahwat wa aslam. And if they took the other view, لا ينكر عليهم ما دام أنه قد أفتاهم من هو أهل لذلك. والله أعلم.
That's the main issue. They need the fatwa for that. We can't provide fatwa.
Yeah, they have to be careful. Wallahu alam.
I think there's a question for sisters.
It says, due to permanent health condition, I cannot fast. What do I have to do? Give money? And how can I get extra rewards? What actions, these, etc. May Allah cure you, Ameen, and may Allah heal you. You don't give money unless you're giving money to someone that is going to provide actual food. It'am should be food, and it should not be given in monetary assets. So therefore, you have 30 days or 29 days. Let's say you want to take care of it in the beginning of the month. 30 days. Ramadan won't be more than 30 days. I'm going to take 200 pounds or 100 pounds or 150 pounds, whatever. And I'm going to send the money to an impoverished country. Or I'm going to send the money in a place in which there are needy people. But I send them the money with the condition of al-it'am. This 200 pounds is to feed 30 poor Muslims. 30 students of knowledge, Methodin, overseas. We're going to send this money to Egypt. 30 students of knowledge that are poor. And this is going to feed them. And that's your month, Methodin. You don't give it the money, but it has to be what? Food. Once you've done that, bid'inai ta'ala, no sin upon you, no responsibility upon you. As far as doing extra deeds, then alhamdulillah, there's so many good deeds to do. You sitting in your house crying over your sins is a good deed. Being kind to your family is a good deed. Being generous to your children is a good deed. Seeking knowledge is a good deed. Giving charity and food to non-Muslims, to neighbors, is a good deed. There's so much khair that you can do. And this applies to people who cannot fast because of health conditions. It applies to people that are too old. It applies to people who are women who are menstruating, who are pregnant, or who are breastfeeding. There's no excuse not to be righteous in the month of Ramadan. There's so much good to do. And the same applies to students of knowledge, like we said last night and before. When you are in the UK, you're not overseas, you're waiting to get accepted to the University of Medina, put in your AirPods and listen to the fatwa. Listen to the ahadith. Listen to the Quran. You can study with Sheikh Uthaymeen, Ibn Baz, Albani, and they have all died. And you can take their knowledge that has been recorded. There's no excuse, I can't study in the UK, I can't study, I'm waiting to go overseas. Nah, but then there's no way in which you can't learn and benefit. Are there distractions, so on and so forth? Of course. But that can be the same with regards to Medina. So give sadaqah, give charity, make istighfar, make tawbah, feed people. There's so much that you can do in the month of Ramadan, even though you aren't fasting. Please go back to the lecture that we did last night with regards to the virtue of Ramadan, even without what? Fasting. See the importance of that now? That Ramadan is a virtuous time even if you're not fasting. And fasting is virtuous even if it isn't in Ramadan. And the highest tier is when you're fasting in Ramadan. But a menstruating woman that cannot pray, it's no excuse for her not to be righteous. There's so much khair that she can do, even though she's not making a salah. And this is one of the reasons why the ulama of Islam, they differ on ziyadatu iman al-ha'idh min nuqsani imaniha. When a woman is menstruating, does her iman plummet or is it flourishing? They differ on this issue. Some ulama, they say that when a woman is menstruating, obviously she can't pray, her iman is what? Because tark al-amal al-salihah is the sabab li nuqsan al-iman. And others, they say, bel innama tarakat as-salata imtithalan li amr al-rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. The only reason why she's not praying is because the Prophet told her not to pray. And that is ta'ah. And that is a means of what? So they differ on this issue. The point is that even though she's not making salah, some ulama say that her iman is still going up because she's obeying Allah. So just because you're not fasting doesn't mean that you can't be righteous. It doesn't mean that you can't be kind to people. And oftentimes we look down upon ma'ruf. If you have a cat, a pet, or you have 2 pet cats, be kind to them in the month of Ramadan. Give them treats. Give them better cat food. Be nice to them. Wallahi. This is a reality. And you'd be shocked at the people who are mean to pets. You'll be shocked at people that are mean to pets. Non-Muslims love dogs. Do all people treat dogs the same in New York? I mean, how many dogs they kick and beat and abuse? And it's not the same as a dog that is treated well by its owner and it will bark and bite at anyone who walks too close to his master. That's a reality. And it shows a khubth, filth in the heart. And that's why the Prophet says, دَخَلَتِ امْرَأَةٌ النَّارَ فِي هِرَّةٍ. A woman went to hell because of a what? A cat. You guys are laughing. What do you mean pets? Treat your pet kindly. She went to hell because of a cat. She didn't allow the cat to eat, nor did she feed the cat. Meaning she was what? She's khabitha. She's foul in her heart. So treating any living creature of Allah kindly is a means of what? Sadaqah. And you don't have to be fasting to do that. You don't have to be making salah to what? To do that. Let alone treating your family kindly. Let alone giving money as sadaqah. Wallahu a'lam. It is said that Umar ibn al-Khattab performed 8 rak'ah of Taraweeh. What is the difference between the 8 rak'ats and the 20 rak'ats? This is a very long issue among the people of knowledge with regards to, is it permissible to make more than 11 rak'at / 13? But in actuality, the 13 rak'at are not the Taraweeh. It's 11 rak'ah with the 2 from the Sunnah of Aisha. Is it permissible to make 11 and only 11, or is it permissible to make 15, 20, 40, etc.? Alright? At the end of the day, the Messenger of Allah والسلام, the clear sunnah is that he would make 8 along with 3. 11. And some narrations say 13, meaning the 2 for Salat al-Isha, and the narrator mentioned it altogether, 13. That's the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and that is the best thing to be done. That is the best thing to be done. Is it a bid'ah to make 20? That's a different level of discussion. Is it a bid'ah to make 20? That's a different level of discussion. Al-Muhim, if you're the imam of the masjid, make 11. Al-Muhim, if you're making tarawih in your home, make 11. If someone asks you your advice, make 11. And don't necessarily scorn and talk and disparage people who say that it's permissible to make what? 20, because they have their proof. Whether you agree with it or not, but they have their dalil. And they have a very long, extensive argument proving that it isn't haram to make more than 11. Me personally, if it was up to me, if I was the imam, if I was leading the center, I would say nothing more than 11 abadan. We shall not make 20 rak'ah in this masjid. But I would not criticize and disrespect someone who says that we will make 20. Wallahu alam.
Yes, Akhi.
Sheikh, just to add to the previous question about a person who cannot fast due to an illness. I've heard some scholars say that also when a person is ill at the time that he can fast, then he fast in the shorter days in the winter. But if he cannot fast in them days due to an illness, then what does he do? Obviously, he would pay a certain amount for
Clear. With regards to someone who cannot fast during Ramadan because the days are long, but he can fast days are short or when it's hot. Ramadan is in the summer, he can make them up in the winter, and this person should not do the it'am, the fidya, etc. No, we don't say this. And that's because what do you say when Ramadan is in the winter? He can't make the fasting when it's cold and short days, and when the summertime comes, what is he going to do? And what disease or terminal illness which is so magical and mysterious that it only comes in Ramadan and goes away what? After Ramadan. This doesn't work like that. So what's meant by sickness is the sickness which is terminal, a chronic illness. Allah is the one who cures. But in most cases, the illness is going to stay with you for the rest of your life. 9 out of 10 times. People don't come back from this illness. You can fight the cancer. You can remove the cancerous tumor. You can get this surgery. You can get this type of therapy, chemotherapy, etc. But in most cases, what? It will remain with you and your body will be weakened. In most cases. Methanan, as an example. Just an example. Overcoming cancer, etc. So at the end of the day, if you got into a car accident, and may Allah protect you, misplaced, or you dislocated your shoulder. Very, very painful, nasty injury, right? You broke your arm, you broke your leg, all right? You broke your hip bone, whatever the case may be. And it's extremely painful. And you need to take heavy painkillers. Or your body needs to wash out or push out some type of infection through fluids. So you have to be hydrated. And it will only last, inshallah, 6 months. 7 months at most. 5 months, etc. That's it. You don't feed anyone. You make up the days that you missed in Ramadan. You make up the whole entire month. But someone who has chronic cancer, diabetes, in which most cases they're not going to come back from that, then they make it'am. Whether they can fast during shorter, cooler days or not. And that's because it's the model that's chronic and it's terminal. That is the correct way, inshallah ta'ala. Faddal.
Tomorrow.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
The hadith that talks about the messenger predicted the Ummah will be divided into 73 sects.
Okay.
كلها في النار إلا واحد. How authentic is that hadith?
Question says, with regards to the hadith that says the Ummah will split into 30 or 73 sects, and all of them will be in the fire of hell except for one. How authentic is that hadith? I would advise you to go back to an extensive answer that we've given on this exact question on Mufti Q&A. The YouTube channel, and also, it's a website, Mufti Q&A. We have given a detailed answer to this question. Is that hadith authentic? Number one. If it is authentic, what is its meaning? If this is the proper meaning, ma hiya dilalatuhu? What does it prove and show? And if the hadith is authentic, bil jumla, hal hunaka riwayat wa alfaz شاذة غير صحيحة غير ثابتة عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. الحديث في الأصل صحيح وثابت. If the hadith itself is authentic, certain variations of the hadith, alfaz, couldn't be authentic. We've explained all of that. At the end of the day, to give you the simplified answer here, the ulama of Islam, they have discussed this matter in detail. And before we go further, is it authentic or not? What did Sheikh Fulan say? This one, that one. Al-Muhim is that the ulama of hadith, they have mentioned this hadith in their books. Rawawha fi kutubihim. They've mentioned it. And the ummahat, okay, the sunan and the jawami and the masani, they've mentioned this hadith. And if the hadith was that weak and that fabricated and that far-fetched, then many of them wouldn't have what? Even mentioned it. That's first and foremost. Alright, that's first and foremost. Secondly is, are there discrepancies with regards to this hadith in general? Yes, there are. There are discrepancies. And I do not believe in hiding knowledge or lying. I don't believe in that. Oh, don't say that. Don't mention that. You show which. La 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 la. The truth shall set you free. That's our constitution. The truth is the thing that sets you free, not hiding and hindering people from factual what? Information. Everybody clear on this or not? The truth shall what? That's the only thing that can set you free. Nothing else. All right. So the fact of the matter is, discrepancies with regards to this hadith, there are. The hadith itself, specific wordings of the hadith itself, let alone the dilala of the hadith. When I was in Medina, my first year at the College of Hadith, I bought a book just on this hadith. A risala, just on this one hadith of Al-Amir al-San'ani, rahimahullah ta'ala, Sahib Subul al-Salam. And he discusses this hadith in detail, and he argues, and he brings up problematic issues with this hadith. And from the problematic issues of this hadith, and the hadith يقضي على جمهور الأمة بالضلال والهلاك. It proves that most of the Muslims are misguided and astray, and they'll be burning in hell. And Sanani rahimahullah, he quotes from other scholars who said this is mushkil jiddan. How can the 72 out of 73 sects all go to hell except for one group? He says that's mushkil, that's problematic. The point I'm trying to make is that there are differences with regards to the hadith. There are differences with regards to certain wordings of the hadith. But the concept of that hadith in general is no doubt is valid. Muslims will differ. Muslims will split up. Muslims will come into different schisms, and there will always remain the purity of orthodoxy. There will always remain the purity of what? Of orthodoxy. There's always going to be at least one group that is upon the haqq. And that haqq is nothing more than what the Messenger of Allah was upon and his Sahaba. ما أنا عليه اليوم وأصحابي سواء صحت هذه اللفظة أم لم تصح معناه صحيح بلا شك. It's authentic meaning. Those who are upon what I'm upon today and my what? Companions, the purity of Islam. The method of the Salaf who ate what? Organically. There's no doubt about that. That it's always going to be healthy to eat like that. So therefore, at the end of the day, whether it is, whether it isn't, this wording, that wording, the concept of practicing Islam, how the Sahaba practice Islam, no one is going to differ on that. No one's going to what? Differ on that. Another very important issue with regards to your question is how people abuse this hadith. And everyone claims that their dawah group or their masjid or their sheikh and their followers, they are the firqatul najiyah. And anyone besides them and away from them, al-firqul halika. And that is the main issue that the people have today with this hadith. Nothing to do with its authenticity. It's how people abuse it. They abuse the hadith. We are the firqatul najiyah. You, even though, and subhanallah, Nur, if you actually sit down, these people that are fighting and arguing and bickering, there is no doubt. If you made a checklist, the things that we agree upon are far more than the things over which we differ. There's no doubt about that. From Aqidah on down. The things that we agree on are far more than the things over which we what? Differ on. Let alone the issues that we may differ on. No doubt about it. 9 out of 10 of them are issues of ijtihad. 9 out of 10 of them are issues of tatbiq and not issues of theory. A tatbiq versus theory. It's a world of difference between the two, Yahi. Who differs with the concept of the evil of innovation? And the people who make innovations and support innovations and propaganda. Man yakhtalif fi hadha. Who differs on that? But the tatbiq of that theory. Who is a person of innovations and who isn't a person of innovations? Who's mistaken? Khata versus bid'ah. The concept of ta'awun, of dawah, of teaching, the ignorant Muslims, the secular lifestyle, colonized countries, living in Western countries. That's what we differ over. But no one is going to differ over the fact that the Salaf took a position against al-bid'ah wa ashabiha. Who's going to differ with that? So oftentimes people, they live once again in this fantasy world and they abuse this hadith with other hadiths. We are the firqatu najiyah وكل من خالفنا أو اختلف في مسألة أو جزئية معنا من الفرق الهالكة. And that's wrong, and that's not what's meant by that hadith. Rather, the ulama of Islam would differ on what's meant by that one group and the different groups that could be included in that one group. Are we understand this? And this is why you find some people, when they were asked certain questions, is this group from the 72 sects or the one sect? There's a difference. So what's important is ilm, akhi, knowledge and science, balance and self-respect. Have respect for yourself. And that is not to talk about things that are beyond your pay grade. And not to be hasty. And not to be volatile and harsh against the Muslims. If you want to be mean and tough, wallahi, we can take you to places in the United States in which what? Bad guys and real tough guys. If you want to be mean and tough. There's no need for you to be mean and tough to the brother who prays like you, who fasts like you, who looks just like you, he has in the same Kuwaiti thobe as what? As you do, the same Parker pen. Why are you so mean to him? And there are non-Muslims who kill Muslims as we speak. If you want to be mean and hate someone, go and do what? Be mean and hate them. Let alone ignorance and haste. And most importantly, waliyadhu billah, is the dunya. The only reason why you're a deviant and you're from the 72 deviant sects is because of money and power. I have to make myself the only valid Islamic person in this land or this country or this masjid. And anyone who doesn't agree with me is a deviant. And the Salafs avoid the deviants, etc., etc., etc. So give me the money, give me the power, give me the control, give me all of the women. That's the reality, is dunya. Okay, so don't be fooled into thinking it's actual mas'ala of ilm and ijtihad. La. It's about wealth and power and status and controlling people. And with Allah, all refuges. So, wallahu alam.
Okay, a few more questions then, brothers.
If a woman's
breastfeeding, is she exempt from fasting? If so, does she have to pay fidya or does she have to make it off?
With regards to breastfeeding women, what does she have to do? Make up the days, make the fidya, etc. Go back to our playlist that we have on Hadith Disciple channel called The Fiqh of Fasting. The Fiqh of Fasting. There's several playlists with that title, which we discussed the concept of the ikhtilaf of the ulama regarding making up the day with paying the fidya, making up the day without paying the fidya, making the fidya without making up the day, or not doing anything. Yasqut anha. Period. She is exempt from fasting. Alright? Each of those different views, there's someone from the ulama who took one of those views. The safest thing to do, especially if you have the time and if you have the money, is to fast and to feed. You can't lose by doing both. And that's because it's a very long discussion. Why is a breastfeeding woman not fasting? Because she's afraid for herself or for her baby? She's afraid for the baby in her stomach. Khafat ala waladiha, khafat ala nafsiha, etc. Many different fiqh details. So if she has the ability to make up the day, and if she has the ability to pay, then that's the best thing to do. And alhamdulillah, you can feed people with a very cheap cost. But the problem is, pregnant for 9 months, breastfeeding for 2 months. And then, after she's finished breastfeeding, or even when she's breastfeeding, her husband what? Demands another child, and she's pregnant again. Pregnant for 9 months, breastfeeding for what? 24 months. How many Ramadans now? 6. You guys with me or not? Breastfeeding 2 years, pregnant for 9 months. In most cases, let's say the Ramadan fell in the what? In the 9th month. So that's approximately how many Ramadans? 3. Second child is what? 6. Then the third child is now what? 9. So 30 times 9. How many days is that? 6 times 30. 5 times 30. That's a lot of days to make up. That's also a lot of money to do what? To pay. And this is one of the reasons why some of the ulama of Islam say there's nothing upon her. Period. Yasqut anha. Alright? But that's not the safest view. The advice that we give is to do the what? The safest thing. It's to make up the days and also what? Pay. That's the safest thing. If you can't do that, then at least make up the day. وهكذا. والله أعلم. تفضل أخي.
Question I've been thinking about is, you know, Muslim, if they're gay, are they out of the fold of Islam, or are they still part of it?
Clear. If there's a gay Muslim, are they outside of the fold of Islam or not? As long as they acknowledge that it is haram to be gay, it is impermissible to be a homosexual or a lesbian, it is not okay, it is not acceptable under any circumstance to have dealings with the same sex. It's haram, la yajuz. Alright? As long as they acknowledge the fact that they're mistaken, and that they're wrong, and that they're sinful, and that's a great and grave sin, they're still Muslims. And they're not outside of the fold of Islam. They are still Muslims. Once I've had a brother, he contacted me once. He's from the UK. And he said, I'm a homosexual. He said, I love Islam. I love Allah. I love His Messenger, but I'm attracted to men, and I sleep with men. And I watch hadithdisciple. I learn. But I have this problem. Give me advice. What do? He's a Muslim. He's acknowledging the fact that he's a sinner, that he's wrong. He's still a Muslim. Just like the one who makes zina is still a Muslim. The one who drinks alcohol is still a Muslim, as long as they don't justify it. So they're still Muslims. We don't make takfir upon them, huh? We don't make takfir on people for what? Sin, huh? Abu Saeed? Huh? Clear Nuri. نتفق على هذا؟ طيب. Ma'asiyah. We don't make takfir upon people for sin, huh? Al-Muhim, they're still Muslims. But what they're doing is severely wrong. And Allah knows best. A person who commits homosexuality and they keep doing it, let alone someone who does it publicly and openly and doesn't hide it, لا شك يخشى عليه الارتكاز يعني. You're fearful. And the Salaf, what would they say? إن الذنوب بريد الكفر. Many of the Salaf would say that sins are the bridge to kufr, meaning kufr akbar. So that's normal sin. The normal way of fornication, man and woman, Adam and Eve. Then what do you think about a man with a what? Another man. How much illness and sickness and disease and dalal do you think could fall in his what? His heart, into which he doubts Allah, doubts the Sharia, and may what? وَلِيَضُ بِاللَّهِ يَنْقَلِبْ. Flip. You understand this? Wallahu alam. Fadl akhi.
So Ramadan comes, Ramadan finishes. The Imam views on the average Muslim is high now. Now Eid comes. How did the Salaf celebrate Eid? And for us Muslims in today's generation, how should we go about it?
Play it. With regards to Al-Eid, how did the Salaf do it and what should you do, so on and so forth. Ibn Rajab rahimahullah, in the book that we're reading from, he quotes what some of the Salaf said and did on the day of Eid. At the end of the day, to keep things simple, I would say it's bitter and sweet. The Eid should be a means of happiness, but you should be relatively sad. And that's because Ramadan is gone. The virtue, the beauty, the shayateen being locked down, all of those things are now no longer. And the masjid will become relatively empty again, unfortunately. And the khair and the barakah of Ramadan is gone. But at the same time, you must be happy that you completed it by Allah's help, by Allah's aid. Allah is the one who guided you and physically aided you, or aided you to physically complete the fast. And that is manifested on the day of what? The day of Eid. What's important is that many people, they ask the question, how do I know my fast was accepted? How do I know my Hajj was accepted? How do I know I actually did the right thing? You really honestly don't know As Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu and others used to say, if Allah took one prayer from me and accepted it, it'll be better than the dunya and everything upon the dunya. One prayer. One prayer. And when the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لا يقبل الله صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ, is that when you pass wind, and if you don't make wudu, Allah will not accept your prayer. That hadith is misunderstood. لا يقبل صلاة أحدكم يعني لا تصح صلاة أحدكم إذا أحدث حتى يتوضأ. Your prayer is invalid until you make wudu. And the Prophet ﷺ, he used the word qabul, acceptance, لأن الصحة مذنة القبول. Because validity is a step towards Allah accepting it. But we don't know what Allah accepts. We don't know who Allah is accepting from. We don't know this. We hope. We have signs. We follow the dalil, the proof, the evidences to make it valid. But al-qabul is with Allah and with Allah only. But some of the ulama of Islam, they say, from the signs that Allah has accepted your fast is that you see the effects and the change upon yourself immediately. So if you were sayyid before Ramadan, you're now Hasan. And if you're Hasan before Ramadan, you're now Ahsan. I was doing really bad before Ramadan. Now I have my neck above water. That's a sign that your Ramadan was accepted. I was doing good, alhamdulillah. I was a good practicing Muslim on the Sunnah. And now I feel like a what? A Superman after Ramadan. I'm praying more. I'm giving sadaqah. I'm reading more. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. That's an alama of bidnai ta'ala, Allah accepted your Ramadan. So you need to start looking for those things on the day on the Eid and after the day of the Eid. If you see yourself going back downhill, it's a problem. And it's a big possibility that your Ramadan wasn't accepted. Allahu Alam, but it's a possibility. If you yourself trying to go on the incline, different story. Wallahu Alam. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I've got a couple of questions. Both of them are quite broad. The first question, with regard to somebody who doesn't understand much of the Quran, is it better for that person to spend Ramadan trying to understand the Quran and coming close to the Quran, or is it better for him to decide to increase recitation because deeds are multiplied? And the second question is, for somebody who has several exams in Ramadan, especially exams that are consecutive, either in the same day or in the same week, and that could possibly affect their performance in those exams, is it permissible for that person to not keep the fast that day?
With regards to someone who doesn't know Arabic, they don't know Arabic that well, or they know Arabic but they don't know the meanings of the Quran, they can't recite it or the tafsir, whatever the reason is, should they busy themselves with enhancing in Arabic and learning how to read it properly, recite it properly, memorize it properly, or read the tafsir properly to have the khushu' and the reflection? Or should they spend their time reading it in English and getting the benefit and becoming closer to Allah? I would say neither of the two. Do a mixture. Whether it's 50-50, 60-40, 70-30. I have 10 hours in i'tikaf, for example. 10 hours. Okay? I'm going to spend 7 hours reading the English. Reading Riyadh al-Salihin. Reading things which affect my heart and my mind. And I speak English. And I'm going to spend 3 hours every day out of those 10 hours learning Arabic. Learning how to recite and read properly. Or learning Nahu and Sarf to read Ibn Kathir or Ibn Sa'di to get the full meaning in its original pure language, which there's no comparison between the two. Even though English is profound as well. And I do not agree with the brothers who say, I don't read English books. I went overseas, I came back, I burnt all my English books. I don't agree with that. Those who say you can't benefit in English, it's no good in English, I don't agree with that. You can read English, and there lies no doubt you can read and find the power of the Quran in English. And the hadiths in English. And you can read profound statements in what? In English. Alright? So at the end of the day, it should be a mixture. You cannot remain void of the Arabic, nor can you just learn Arabic and not actually get some actual information to digest into your heart and to your mind. As far as breaking your fast for an exam, the ulama of Islam, they say exams are not a legitimate excuse for breaking the fast. You have to study before, ahead of time, and that is the fighting and the struggling that you have to perform. That's the struggle that you have to perform. Now look at the dunya now. Some of the great athletes, whether they were Muslim or not, had some of their greatest games when they were ill, when they were sick. Hakim Olajuwon. I'm making this about, I mean? The non-Muslims would interview him, and they would be amazed, and they would give him respect for him playing NBA games, playoff games, during what? Ramadan, and he still was the dream. Even though he was fasting. Michael Jordan, the famous, infamous what? Flu game. How many points did he drop? He was sick. He was ill. So you have to rise to the occasion. And you can't say, I can't play because I'm sick. Or I can't take this exam because I'm fasting. Nah. First of all, you shouldn't be a cram crash studier. You should have the information, what? Aforetime. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, seek Allah's help. Put your trust in Allah. You're hungry. You may have a little bit dry mouth. It's not going to kill you to take the exam. And I guarantee, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you took the exams and one day and you're fasting and you're hungry, and if you do well and you pass, you will feel amazing afterwards. You say, Alhamdulillah, Allah gave me the success to knock out that exam. And I did better when I was fasting than when I ate my breakfast and had my tea and I had my coffee. That's a reality. And oftentimes, the most concentration that you have is when you're hungry. And that's why Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah ta'ala, he was asked, أَيَرُقْ قَلْبُهُ وَهُوَ شِبْعَانٍ? He says, can a man's heart be soft and his belly is full? Can a man eat a lot and have a soft heart? Imam Ahmad, he says, La urahu. He says, I don't think so. He says, I don't think it's possible for a man's belly to be full and his heart to be soft at the same time. So oftentimes the hunger and these things, they give you a heightened level of what? Concentration. Wallahu a'lam.
Okay, just take one last question from the young man here.
So when in school, when you're doing your SATs in year 6, they say that you can't fast since it's in May when Ramadan is. They said you can't fast. One of my other ustads said that I can fast if I want, but I'm not sure.
Listen to the other ustads. Fast, inshallah. You can't lose by fasting. Fasting is one of the most important things for a young man because fasting teaches you discipline and self-control. And if you have discipline and self-control, by Allah's permission, you can be whatever you want to be when you grow up. Literally. Discipline and self-control. So fast. And then get yourself used to fasting what? Right at your age. How old are you?
10.
You're 10, mashallah. Perfect age to start. Inshallah. And Allah knows best. Jazakumullahu khairan. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa barak. Ala abdihi wa rasulihi nabina wa imamina Muhammad.